Friday. Oh, hi, Larkin.
Hey, there we go.
Yay, it worked.
All right, fantastic.
So great to see you.
Good to see you. How's everything?
Oh, it's going well. We,
Yeah, going to adjust this a little. Okay.
I know, same with me. But Larkin and I met several years ago
Yeah, years ago.
in Minneapolis. A mutual friend introduced us and said that Larkin, you're this amazing producer and writer, and I was so passionate about fertility. I think it's before. Did I have Hugh at the time where I met you, or was
Yes, just a baby.
just
Or
a
about,
baby?
yeah, or about to be born. Yeah. So it was a really exciting time.
It was, and then Larkin actually came and filmed Grace's birth. So she flew to Oklahoma and was with my entire family, met my parents, all my siblings.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable. I hope you can share that video with your audience.
I will. I need to figure out how to do that. So I'll talk to you probably more about that, about
Right.
how to. But at some point we will figure out. But yes, I was able to deliver my daughter. My sister was our surrogate, and Larkin was there for the whole thing. So it's been really great, especially getting to know you. And also, you guys are about to launch. What is the actual release date?
So President Biden just bumped us. He we were going to be on April 28th, and I'm going to change my Facebook very imminently. Now we are on May 12th. So I figured if the president chose April 28th, that was a good night, and we just chose another really good night. So it's all good. It's all good. We're very excited.
Now, so we'll definitely talk about fighting for fertility on this Insta Live. But I would just love, I mean, you may have had some kind of experience with fertility, but you as a producer and documentarian, and media talking about fertility, I would just love to hear your perspective, what you've learned and experienced in creating this documentary.
Well, first of all, coming through you was pretty amazing because you know so much, and it was really a great way to get oriented. And the thing that really most surprised me as I was digging into all of this, that I would hear over and over, was just the devastation that can travel with this journey for many people, the heartbreak, and of course the miracle and the joy, and hopefully that can occur. But I had done a film on depression, and I've said to my executives many times, this is almost more painful. And why is that? And I think it's because maybe we as women just think we're gonna have children. We came into this world, we were born, so of course we're gonna go have babies ourselves if we want them, right? And so I think that is just such a shattering thing when it is not straightforward. And obviously the challenges are out there for couples, and we're addressing a lot of those challenges. And there's a lot of myths around this condition as well, as you know. I mean, what I'm talking about is male factor fertility. So we address that head on in this show because I think most couples, it's the woman who's with the OB, right? They're on the front lines. So they're the ones who get checked out. And that can be kind of expensive and painful and on and on and on. Whereas if a man just were to have a sperm analysis done, it's pretty inexpensive, can even be done in the home. And sometimes that yields the important answer. It just depends. So I think that's a really important myth. And the other thing we're tackling in the show is racial structural inequalities. So we feature the African American community, and I was absolutely stunned to know that their rates of infertility are twice as high as white women.
Why do you think that is, or what research did you guys learn?
So, I think we saw some of this play out with COVID and sort of health compromises that come through oppression and racism, and we address that in our show. But also it's an issue of access. There's also myths in the African American community about being hyperfertile, which isn't true. And I would say what's true for African Americans and, women trying to get pregnant is the age of the egg. And I don't think most of us realize how important that is. And the African American community also waits and doesn't understand that the egg ages, and it's a lot harder if you wait. So that's like another factor. So, and then we deal with the transgender community. And I think that's a really important story because stigma plays such a big role in this community. And it's very important that people who are transgender have an equal right to having children, right? Sometimes they're told just to adopt, and they just feel like, why shouldn't we have the same opportunities that everybody else has? And I think that's a really important message as well. So I just feel really good about the diverse range of voices that we have in the film. And also fertility is, the advances are driven by technology. So we're featuring another couple that's dealing with an experimental, embryo. And it's very nerve-wracking for a lot of couples, but the science is coming in slowly, and these couples are very brave and they're taking chances because they have so few options, right? And they're kind of pioneers, and we feature a couple that is dealing with that as well, because this field is so cutting edge. As you know, I mean, you've probably seen just so many changes, right? And all the genetic tests and all the options that are out there, and there's a lot, and it's a confusing landscape to navigate. And I think it's good if we have more transparency about what are all these tests for. Do I really need this? It's dependent on age in some cases, all sorts of stuff.
No, it can be incredibly overwhelming. I know Ben and I, we started trying when I was mid-20s. I got married at 23, so I was young.
You were really young.
Really young. And, we both came from huge families, started trying mid-20s, and then started seeing doctors and OBs before going to my fertility experts. But just say, oh, well, try this or try this. And then I think for me, the amount of blame I was putting on myself, oh, maybe I did this wrong, or maybe I did time this right. And then understanding that there are environmental impacts, and there are, and how to navigate that. And then
exactly.
There's stress.
Oh, and the stress is huge. And when you look back, Sarah, do you ever say, oh, could it have been, did you ever have irregular periods, or was it this, or was it that? Do you ever look back and say, maybe it was this, or have you ever?
I would look back and kind of say, well, it's interesting. I was talking to my OBGYN, and she was saying, I was on birth control. And she said a lot of girls, if they had irregular periods when they're in their teens, that OBs will just put them on birth control to regulate their periods without diagnosing what the actual root issue is and why, and solving it when they're in their teens. So for me, I was always on birth control, and then went off birth control, try to get pregnant. But because that issue I had endometriosis, but because the issue had never been solved, or could have been solved 10 years before I was even trying, then it was just oh, now we have to figure it out, and it's longer. And that's also when you're trying and really actively want to have kids, then it becomes that much more emotional and stressful and painful.
Exactly. And that's what I was going to say, is one of the messages of the film, I hope, is, women should start early if they have any reason for concerns, right? If you have an irregular period, or if you have a painful period, or your spouse has been exposed to chemicals, in the environment. There's just all these various lifestyle factors, or just physiological things that we have to address. And like with endometriosis, I also had it. I didn't know I had it because I was asymptomatic. And, we just have to get our doctors on this and look for it early, because it can start at puberty or sooner. And it takes 6 to 8 years to diagnose. We report that in the film. And as you point out, we could be doing a lot of helping these girls at an age before they're very stressed out about having a baby.
Mm-hmm. No, because then even the years I was trying, I was an ultra marathoner, and I stopped running because the doctor said, the running chicken doesn't lay the eggs. But altering every single part of my life that I knew to alter without even realizing that, we launched a skincare company, but I was doing acupuncture and diets and yoga and therapy and everything I was supposed to do, meditation, but not even realizing that chemicals, as you mentioned, can impact fertility significantly.
So that's another message in our film that's huge. We have the world-class expert in our film, Dr. Shanna Swan, who will report that men today have half as much sperm as their grandfathers did. That is, and she said there's no bottom. So the line is going like this, and they don't see the bottom. And it's really pretty frightening. And what is going on? And, of course, lifestyle, obesity, binge drinking, smoking, none of that's good for sperm. But endocrine disruptors, if people don't know what that is, they're going to hear a lot more about them now because they're everywhere in our environment. They're in a lot of our skincare products. They're in fragrances, in laundry detergent. They're when we cook or when we drink a soft plastic bottle, they're in that. When you're microwaving, I've just recently told my young son, don't microwave anything with plastic anymore because it can disrupt your body. So these endocrine disruptors, they've proven that they are meddling with testosterone in the developing fetus of a woman's body. And if it's a boy, they're going to be less male because of these endocrine disruptors. So it's really disturbing to learn this. But the good news is that if you're trying to get pregnant, there's ways to limit your exposure to these things that are primarily found in your kitchen and your bathroom. So, I mean, it's like everyday products, and they're just everywhere. So that's something.
They're just everywhere, and they can impact your health.
Yeah, we really have to work on this. And education like this is huge.
Yeah, no, for me, when I was trying to do everything quote unquote right, and then never having results, and then I never even thought about skincare, or never even thought about, because I wasn't, we tried for 14 years. My son is almost 4, and so we haven't. But even 4 years ago, no one was talking about this.
No one wasn't. I'm proud to say I have your bar of soap right by my sink, and I call it the bar of gold. It's a gold bar. I mean, it's like a beautiful bar, but I'm sort of amazed because I have good products, that I've been using, but when you and Ben came along and came up with something that was completely ridden of endocrine disruptors, I was stunned because I thought the other product I had that was ridden of it, and it wasn't. And so I'm really happy that you guys are offering this.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
We were given so much from our two family members who are surrogates, and we just said we know a lot about a topic that's not being widely addressed. I know right now, this is 2 years ago, we were trying to figure out what to do with this, but now it's being more and more talked about. And so we said, how do we create products that, first of all, don't have hormone disrupting chemicals, but that have amazing properties that perform just as well or better, but then also that help detox, repair, and protect your body. So,
exactly. And the oils are beautiful on the skin. Really beautiful. Yeah.
Well, your skin looks fantastic. So I'm curious with media, because I talked to you about this topic years ago before it was even picked up, and iterated different things. But so what have you seen has been the media's interest, perception? Do you think it's been changing over the past several years?
Around this topic?
Around this topic.
I would say the timing of this is unbelievably good. Knock on wood. For example, the world-class expert I referred to, Dr. Shanna Swan, has a book out now, Countdown to Zero. It has gotten huge press, all over the New York Times. She's doing all sorts of events, speaking at the Commonwealth Club. And I'm thinking, this is fantastic. I mean, the convergence of conversations about the pandemic and fertility rates and, sperm rates and our reproductive potential. I mean, it's just, I noticed it myself. So I'm very hopeful that this film has a greater impact as a result of that there's a synergy going on with awareness around things like endocrine disruptors and other lifestyle factors that may be impacting fertility. And then we have a very new world of building families almost any way you can imagine. I mean, this is what technology is bringing about, and that is thrilling because lesbian women can now have a genetic child of their own, 100%. Well, I actually have to think, but there's opportunities for, and that I'm thinking more of the future and that with that one and skin cells, which we weren't able to include in the show, but the idea is that there's just so many opportunities for us to have a child, no matter our background, and that's really exciting.
Yeah, when Ben and I think we were like 8 or 9 years into our fertility struggle, and he looked at me one day and he's like, are we only going to be parents to our genetic children that you give birth to, or are we going to be parents? And as soon as we made the decision, we're going to be parents, it just took a huge load off our shoulders. And I wasn't stressed out, and I wasn't as rushed. And, then you're like, oh, there are so many, there's more options today than ever before with the science and technology. It's incredible.
Sarah, I filmed Ben saying that, and that's such a great point because I think that's, I hope another really important message in this film is it doesn't always work out the way you imagined it. And it doesn't mean that it's deficient, to steal the words from my reverend in this film. She's fantastic. It's just different. And there are ways to be a mother. There's many, many ways to be a mother in this world, and a father.
You know, and for me, it was more, I didn't give birth, but it was very special to have, you were there. I'm the oldest of 6 kids. All my siblings, my parents flew to Oklahoma for the birth. That would have never happened had I given birth. And even the birth of our company, like the fact that because we struggled so long and so hard, we really and we're given so much, we wanted to help repay. You know, you can't ever give really the gift of life to other people, but it's made me more vulnerable, more open, stronger. And
Yes.
I think also by me sharing, you know, when my sister was pregnant for me, I would tell people we're expecting, but I obviously didn't have a stomach. And so it actually allowed people to feel more comfortable sharing things with me than before. And so I just think it brings a whole level of humanity, but also I think appreciation, because when you struggle for something, sometimes you appreciate it more. So
yes, 100%. And you have such a beautiful family, such a supportive family, you know.
We saw my sister-in-law last weekend with Hugh, Jenna, and then 2 weeks ago we saw my sister Michelle flew in for my daughter's 2nd birthday. But it's such so special, and I'm still in awe that, first of all, these opportunities there that we could put our embryo into someone else and have a healthy baby.
I know. I think one of the more profound things about you, Sarah, is that you said you could never ask anybody to be your surrogate, and you and Ben maybe just said, no, we could never do that. But then what happened to you was so extraordinary, because people didn't really know your story. You were pretty quiet, and then came forward privately to you, and you had never asked. And I think your point was so well made about why you wouldn't want to ask, but people wanted to help.
People want, and I never felt I can ask, because it doesn't just impact the surrogate. It impacts her, you know, my brother-in-law, impacted their kids, it impacted their whole community. My sister in Oklahoma, I live in Los Angeles. I couldn't be there for a lot of the doctor's appointments. Her best friend attended every doctor's appointment with her. She would have neighbors bring her dinners every week. And it was such an amazing act for me, because it's really hard for me to accept help, which is also another reason I couldn't ask. But to receive that kind of help and to feel that kind of love was life-changing for me.
Yeah. And your husband's sort of like that too. And I think his wonderful message is, we all need to ask for help, like, you know,
or at least share that you're struggling. You know, because
we can't make life without help. I mean, it was so beautiful. Yeah.
It's with this National Fertility Awareness Week, just being aware that this, you know, it's reported 1 in 8 couples. That's the reports, but I'm assuming there's even more that are unreported, because we didn't tell anybody for 10 years that we were struggling.
Exactly. And make the conversation broaden, right? Like these kinds of conversations and getting the word out through a film, anything we can do, right?
No, I love that. How has been, so I know you guys are getting ready for this release with Fighting for Fertility. What kind of topics are you covering in the documentary that you think would be interesting and worth mentioning?
Well, I do think how 2 men have a baby is really interesting. and I'm just going to say you have to watch the show, you know, but also I think we tackle really difficult science, and we illustrate it with gorgeous animations, and we explain things, and we talk a little bit about reproduction and why there's a million hurdles to have a baby under the best conditions. Like, it's crazy. I mean, everything that has to go right in a pregnancy is a lot. And so we kind of walk you through what that's like, and then we help with other animations. So I feel like people are going to be really well grounded in this topic when they see this film, and hopefully, you know, with questions they dig more. My hope is that it's a resource for everybody, because it's really trying to lay out the groundwork. It's updating us on where we're at with technology today. And just so many different voices that it hopefully will resonate with all comers, right? And also all ages, you know. It's just, young women, older women, you know, just this impacts everybody.
So I had a few friends who, didn't believe in fertility treatments. And so when we were going through surrogacy, it was hard. Would this be a good resource, or my parents, because I didn't tell my parents who were struggling until I told them that we were pregnant with our sister-in-law. So they were so shocked, but I never knew how to talk about infertility with them. Would this be a good resource for people who maybe are struggling and don't know how to express their feelings, and the options out there to share with friends or family members to help them have a better understanding of the topic?
100%, because we have a young, beautiful couple open the film, and they decided to share their story. And I said to them, you know, at the outset, I said, are you guys in this for the long haul? I said, are you in this good or bad? And they said yes. And they stuck with us. And, you know, they've had a lot of struggles, and they share it all openly and rawly. And I think that can help a lot of people. Just the fact that they're out there talking about it, all they want to do is help others. It makes them feel better, right? Like anything we can do in our struggle to ease somebody else's struggle. And it just, you know, and also make it less taboo. I mean, there's nothing wrong with this couple, you know, right? They're healthy, they're beautiful, they're, you know, you'll see what's going on. And in some ways it's inexplicable, but it's a strong story. And I just think people's willingness to share that without knowing what's going to happen. And their story's not, you know, you'll have to watch, is all I should say. And then also, not to forget, we have a platform on the web where we just didn't have enough time to include some stories, one of which was about egg freezing. And this is a huge topic for women. And, you know, do you freeze your eggs? And some women feel pressured or frightened into doing this and so on. And it's also very expensive. But we run a story about a woman who did this in the very early days of egg freezing, when it went from freezing the egg to vitrifying the egg, which is a really more powerful way to store an egg. But it was still early days, and it's a cautionary tale. And again, you need good information. You need to ask a lot of questions when you go into this with your doctors. Some doctors are all over this and they're fantastic, but others, you know, you just might want to get armed with knowledge. So you're asking all the right questions. Say, well, how many eggs do I put aside? And at what age? Because there's now egg counters or algorithms that they run and so forth. So there's also some information in that story that I think is relevant to younger women, right, who are thinking about this, or single women. And in this case, it was a single woman that we feature. And we also have a smaller story on adoption, because we very much wanted to include that in this show, but it was really more about, you know, genetic children. So that was our focus. But we spent time with a lovely woman, and she articulates her profound love for her child that she adopted. And it's a good story.
I love that.
Yeah.
No, when we were trying, we always thought I'd get pregnant naturally or we adopt. And I didn't even consider all the various options.
Right.
So I love that you're bringing this to light.
Yeah. And so it's like, tune into go to the web platform and look for those stories too, because we wish we could have fit it all in, but.
Now, well, this has been incredibly, I'm mindful of your time. I can talk to you for hours.
It's so fun to talk with you. I hope I get to visit with you guys again soon.
I know. Well, thank you.
Come to Minnesota.
I will come to Minnesota.
Okay.
You were invited to our live launch May 22nd in Los Angeles.
Very tempting. Okay.
And thank you. Thank you for joining us. And we'll all look forward to seeing Fighting for Fertility.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
Take care.
Bye.
Bye.